Hi everyone, thank you for stopping by to view my video today. My name is Heidi, and today I'm going to share with you a journal that I created that I made into a fairy kind of mushroom woodland forest theme. And this journal measures 5 inches by 8 inches tall, and the spine is 2.5 inches, and I created 3 signatures in this journal. And so for the cover, one of the inspirations that I had for the theme and just loving this paper is this paper here that covers the front and the back and the spine perfectly, where it kind of has a little fairy house on each section, even on the spine, having that one perfectly centered. Came from this paper pad from Stamperia called Hidden Grove. I really love this paper. It's very pretty. And it has pages that include these kind of little die cut cutouts that you can put on your pages or make ephemera out of them, pattern pages, and then also these pages that's kind of a full scene where it would have a tree and your little gnome or forest fairy and little shamrocks and little wild animals and their tiny little kitchens and their forest. I loved everything about a little strawberry there with a squirrel. Such a cute pad. So that was one of the inspirations for this. And then also I found 2 books over time, not all at the same time, but at different times, from Five Below that I thought were perfect for the kind of journaling I like to do. This herbal handbook. And this is really good because it has illustrations in there on all the pages to talk about the herbs. And then also it has the botanical or scientific name, I guess you call it. And this just looks like a little specimen kind of writing that would go along with the illustrations. And then what's extra cool about this book is that in addition to talking about the herbs, it had different recipes and ways to use the herbs. And it's just this beautiful colors on the pages. And I just thought this book was perfect and just great for any kind of journaling, and then especially for this little woodland fairy journal that I was working on. And then this was a second book that I found at Five Below, and this was called Mystical Mushrooms. And it has a lot of information about mushrooms, but then also had these really beautiful drawings inside that could be cut out of the pages and used not on every page, but smaller ones and bigger ones. And it was just a really cool book to use for journaling. So that was 2 really lucky finds that I had. So I incorporated those into this journal in different places. So I had a little mishap making this journal because I started out with a cereal box like we do a lot, and I cut it out to size and I glued on my beautiful perfect paper that I love so much to make the cover. And as it was drying and I started working with it, I discovered that the adhesive did not stick at all. And I was really disappointed, but I was determined not to lose this paper. So I basically just pulled it off of that cereal box, and instead I backed it with some coffee dye paper. And then the first what I did was I put down some washi tape on the folds there to reinforce that, and then I just covered the back with some regular coffee dyed paper. And so the cover is probably a little flimsy, but I'm going to decide that it's okay because I still got to use this piece of paper and I still like the journal. So I guess that shows when something bad happens, just keep on trying, and if it's okay with you, then that's all that counts. So that's what I did there to save my cover, and I think it worked out okay. I don't think I'm too, I'm not going to be throwing this into a bag or anything. This is more of a journal that I would keep on a shelf and maybe write some things in over time, but not travel with it or do anything where it might get messed up easily. So for the first signature, I started out with a vintage Farmer's Almanac page and added some of these little fairy stamp stickers. These I think I got from Temu in a little box of all these little cute stamp shapes that you could glue onto pages. I love that. And stamped a little Brighter Days Ahead on there. And then this was some vellum, colored vellum that was really pretty. And I added these little mushrooms here, which this was a great find, a garage sale. These were Post-it notes. So I just took off, there's a whole bunch of them. So I took off a layer and glued those onto this vellum paper. And this vellum is so great because you can see the next page of the drawing right through there, which is really pretty, I think. And then here's an example of one of those herb illustrations. And I fussy cut that out of the page. And then I cut out the botanical name and that little cute font that has the numbering there, and glued that on there and so it fit on my page the way I wanted, and added a little dragonfly sticker so on some scrapbook paper there, and I thought that turned out cute. And then this is a little gift bag that I believe when I ordered some stamps, when it came packaged like that in this little cute bag, which was perfect because it was so cute to receive, but then also perfect for journaling. So I love that. And then inside this bag, I have 2 journaling cards. This is from another scrapbook set. And then this is one of those, one of the pages from the mushroom book where I added some stamps on there and then backed it with some coffee dye paper and then added these stamps here. And I love this mushroom stamp here. It's so much detail and it's so pretty. And those stamps I'll show you came from a set from mydiamondpress.com. And I have the little instruction sheet here just to show you the name and everything. It was called Cottage Garden, and it had little woodland creatures, snail, frog, butterfly, and all kinds of cute little shapes, and then even some sentiments like "you are beautiful inside and out," a little note to say hello, just all kinds of cute things. And in addition to the stamps, which came like this, so they're all really cute. Even this little wreath is something I used in this journal. There was a die cut for each stamp. So that's a nice set to use for card making or scrapbooking, and of course for journal making. So I love the way those look in this journal. So on this page, this paper here was another part of my inspiration. And this is a vintage poetry book paper. And that came from this set. I bought this of a vintage variety pack from a store here in Ohio, and it had all kinds of things in there like stamps and maps and cards, but it also had some book pages, and then it had these. I got a few pages from a poetry book, I assume. So that is a sample of a paper I didn't use yet, and it has poems in there and then some fairy theme. But then I also got this about road trips and on the road for traveling, which would be nice for some kind of like a state park or national park kind of journal for the future. So I just love that pack. That was a great pack to find where somebody had curated a pack of different papers, and then I could just buy it as one pack to use for my journaling. So with that page, I wanted to use every little piece possible. So I cut the piece that was left over from another page that I'll show you in a minute. I cut that and made it into a pocket, and this little fairy sleeping, or little gnome. So I put this little stamp, Lazy Days, right next to him. I thought that was cute. And then here's another type of journal page of a botanical drawings. And I believe this came from this set here, Moonlight Magic. And this is by American Crafts. And this had all kinds of really great die cuts and journaling shapes that you can use all through the journals. And this was a great pack. The only thing with this is that all the paper in here is a very lightweight paper. So anything, at least I feel like, if you're not gluing it onto the paper, it needs to be backed with something else. So in this example, I believe what I did was I backed 2 of the pieces in here together to make a thicker page. But I just loved all the different things that were inside of here that you could use in your journals. And there's another example of something that came from there. And then here's some of that mulberry type paper, and I put some stickers there that I thought were cute that went with the theme. And then here's a little card that came from that Moonlight Magic set, and I stamped a little bit on the back of that, but another little fairy. This is a pixie fairy, I guess. And some scrapbook paper and one of the stamps there, and added special wishes. And then I think this is a page from that mushroom book, maybe the end papers that had that background image all the way through. And this is one of the bigger images from that paper pad I showed you at the beginning, and I cut out that little die cut from the pad and then stamped a little frog on here. And this isn't coffee dyed, but I just inked it up so it had a little bit of a vintage look with a coffee dyed look on there. And some scrapbook paper and stickers. And then this is one of those coin envelopes from Dollar Tree with a Dollar Tree tag, and this has a little frog on there with his little lantern from that paper pad. I think he's so cute. I love him. And I created a collage on the front of this envelope with a little bit of that net kind of ribbon that's from the Dollar Tree. That comes in handy with all kinds of collages with your book papers and stuff like that. I really like that. And here's the bottom of that gift bag, and I created a little flower collage here with some more of the Moonlight Magic little pieces, and then I also did some die cut flowers on there with You Are Pure Magic. And then inside this gift bag slot is another one of those cards where I stamped it and coffee dye, or not coffee dye, printed it to look like coffee dyeing, and then inked the edges to give it a little bit of a good vintage look. And more, this is a little short sheet of that scrapbook paper from earlier in the signature, so I added these little tickets that say let's have fun, and the vellum, and then the Farmer's Almanac vintage page. And then now we're on to the second signature. So this paper here, long ago my friend and I used to sell handmade paper, and we would create little journals with it and little handmade cards. And so I still have some of the paper in my stash that I like to use in different ways. So here's an example of one of our little purple pages. It's kind of pretty, and I thought that went great with the coloring of this journal. And then here's another part of that fairy poem paper. Isn't that cute, with him, and he's talking to the butterflies and his little caterpillar friend there in the forest. And then on the back side of those, where the poem is kind of this one color print. And so there's a little fairy sitting in their little morning glory seats. And I put a little 4-leaf clover there. Well, 3-leaf clover there. So, and then another one of the herb botanical drawings that I fussy cut again, and just kept the name there to make it look pretty. And then this is a little pocket. It's a multi-pocket pocket. And this one I just glued into the page, but later in the video, I'm going to show you a little mini tutorial how to make this. I don't remember where I learned this from, so I'm sorry about that, but it's a pocket where it has this front pocket, this middle pocket, and then it even has a pocket on the back here. So, and this one here is 3 by 3 inches, but you could really make it any size with any size square piece of paper. And so inside here, I have another one of those little cards that I backed, so it's a little thicker. And then this one, I used every little bit of that fairy paper. So I even got this little guy here with his little flower umbrella. I just love that paper. And put a sticker on this purple vellum now. And then this is coffee dye paper where I tried using a stencil. So this is a little dandelion stencil, and I thought that really fit well with this theme journal. And here on the back side where it shows through, I even added the frog underneath the dandelion flower and a little bird at the top. And then this paper is really pretty. I thought it went well with it. It's kind of lightweight, but I made it into a little pocket folder and added a little fairy house in a pot with some lace and more of those stamps there. And more of the Temu box of stamps that have fairies on them. And this fairy tale word even came from this set. So this was a great set for this journal. More coffee dye paper and stickers. And then the vellum shows through that mushroom drawing here that I cut out from the book and added a tab. And then this is a belly band where I added some more of those journal pages, a little card. And then this is from that Stamperia paper pad. Inked the back and then added some of those little paper flowers. I think those you can get at Hobby Lobby. Put that in that little belly band. And then finally, here's the little poem that is folded from that other side of the signature. So this is the poem I was talking about. That's why I think that all those papers came from a larger book of poems. So this was so cute. And the last line is, "There will be fairies in the forest if you believe with all your heart." And we have the little fairy pixie here blowing his little morning glory horn. So that was so cute. So I'm pretty proud of myself for not hoarding that paper and using it in a journal, and we'll be able to enjoy it in this journal and not just have it in a drawer somewhere because it's so cute. So there's some fairy guys on the back sitting on their little mushrooms and more of my homemade paper. And then in the last signature, I have a vintage page that came from that vintage pack. More little stickers and vellum. And this is another one of those coin envelopes. This page, when I folded in the signature, was pretty short. So I thought, well, you can always glue something on there. So that's why I added this envelope as part of the page, really. And inside, I just took a piece of scrapbook paper and inked the edges and added a little ribbon to make a little tag there. And this stamp I've had for a while. This shows up a lot in my journals, I think, because it's so cute. First of all, it's a great size. And then the bingo playing card just kind of goes with any theme. I feel like it's a great background for any kind of journal. So I like using that. Some more of that kind of mulberry paper, and then another pocket folder. And then this page here, I have this little paper clip with another Lazy Days stamp. And then I have our little fairy gnome there sitting on his little mushroom with his 4-leaf clovers, and another card. I just love all these little themes. They're so pretty. Little lace on the edge there. And then on this page, this is a little piece of paper from the paper pad, and I cut out a mushroom house to put on there next to the strawberries. And then when you open it, this has more of the strawberry themes from that paper pad where I cut those out and inked the edges, and then added a little bit of this kind of scribble writing in the background as a stamp, and inked it up and made a little book there. And here we have another one of the botanical herbs that I cut out. Those are so pretty, and a perfect size too. Such a great big size. And then this is kind of a funny story. So this paper here, I have been saving forever. I just loved it. It's so silly. I don't even know where it came from. It's probably some random thing on the back of a package. Who knows? But I've had it forever, and I finally had a chance to use it in a journal. It's just perfect for this little fairy theme with the lightning bugs in a jar. And it was just a little thin piece of paper. It even had a fold right down the middle of it there, but I used it, and I backed it up with some of the paper pad paper, and I'm so glad I finally got to use that in my journal. So keep going with another short page where I glued some other papers on top, so it has a little flap there. More vellum where you can see through to the paper behind. Vintage book with a oval with the butterfly, and that's the end. So I really loved how this journal turned out. And so let's look at how to make that little pocket. So what you want to do is start with a piece of paper. It really can be any size, but if you happen to have the 6x6 kind of paper pads, it's perfect to use for that. So this is a 6x6 paper. So this pocket would be 3x3. So like if you used an 8x8 piece of paper, you would have a pocket that was 4x4. But the way you want to do this is you start with it with the most decorative side, or the side you like the most, face down. And first what you want to do is fold this into fours. So I will do that now. And you want to burnish it as you go so that it will stay, you know, all the folds won't get all bunched up in the end. So you fold it into fours each way, horizontally and then vertically. And burnish it as you go. So then you have that. So then what you want to do is you want to fold up the two bottom triangles. So this one you want to fold up so it's just a little bit short of your fold so that the paper will still fold down. And you want to fold it up like that. Keep it nice and square. And then on this corner, you want to fold it where you have it short like that, where probably like 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch space there, like this. And you want to kind of keep this square where this line right here lines up with that line. So they're at 45-degree angles. Then all you need to do is fold this back up like that. And then you want to fold this up all the way. And then you want to give it another good burnish. And then on the one that I did, I trimmed this corner since it's kind of poking out there by itself. So I have my corner punch here that I'm going to just trim that off. So it gives it a little bit of a nicer look. And then the last thing that you need to do is just take your favorite glue that you like and just do one line along the left side like that. And hold that in place and get off any of that extra glue. And that's really all you need to do. So now you have a pocket here, and then there's also almost like a hidden one in the back. And I suppose you could cut this even short too. Actually, I'm gonna try that right now. So let's see, I have my scissors. I'm gonna try cutting that short to make a third one more obvious. Impromptu change on my tutorial. So now you have your pocket here, and your pocket here. So I think that's a really cute idea. So you can layer up any kind of ephemera that you want to put in your pages of your journal with this little pocket, and add it anywhere on your page. So thanks again for stopping by to see my video. I hope you enjoyed flipping through my latest journal with fairies and mushroom theme. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.